On May 20th, 1875, there was what we call meter convention. The meter convention was a document or a treaty that was signed. It's a global treaty that was signed so that we can have a standardized measurements across the globe. So each of us today, let's say if you are buying, I'm sure you know that we get even rice from Pakistan, right? Some of you go to the supermarkets and you see different types of cereals, and you know one of them is rice. You get rice from Pakistan, for example, and or we have other places where we get goods from, and they come in let's say in kgs. That kg that is used in Pakistan, when it arrives here, it should also be a kg here, because they are following one standard. There is actually a prototype of a kg which has helped to standardize all the other measurements. And as you know, we are into an industry which we are involved in offering services to our clients, whereby we sell, we service, and calibrate measuring equipment. Today's theme, or rather the theme of the World Metrology today is what? Everybody, can we read?
For sustainable tomorrow.
Yes, measure today for sustainable tomorrow. According to metrology, or rather why metrology is important, it's because metrology is meant to improve the quality of life. And number two, metrology helps in preservation of environment. Why do we say that metrology helps in improvement of life? For example, I know we have mothers here, and congratulations. When you're a mother, when you start taking your child to a clinic, the child is monitored by the clinician or by the pediatric. The child is monitored in the way she or he is developing in terms of different parameters. You'll see that the doctors, the pediatric will keep on checking on the weight. Another thing that the doctor will be observing, the height. Another thing, gentlemen, you are trying to enter a zone that's not yours. So let the ladies talk. So why is the doctors monitoring? They're monitoring to make sure that if they are giving the child medication, or if they are giving treatment, they are doing it accurately, depending on how the child is developing. And those scales of measurement enable the quality of this child to be better. If you are doing a construction project, I'm just giving you illustration of why metrology helps improve the quality of life. If you're doing a construction, maybe say you are a mason, or you are an architect, you are designing a structure, or you are maybe a consultant engineer on site. You find that everything, you make sure that it adheres to a certain drawing, and you give everything to the design. Like in our fabrication department, I believe we don't just build a weighing machine. We have dimensions that we use to build that scale, and we use length. We measure length before even we get into that. Now checking on how the scale is going to be used in terms of now measuring the products of the customers. So those lengths that are being measured For example, when you are measuring 1 meter, it must be a standard 1 meter. If it's 2 meters, it must be 2 meters. All that is metrology. So, in a scenario, you are giving, like for example, you're giving a quotation to a client that your scale will be 1 meter by 1 meter, only to reach to the client and they find that, this is 0.5 by 0.5. It will have compromised the standard. So, and also there are things like, for example, when you are building, safety also is enhanced when you take accurate measurements. So you find that in like civil work, you'll see the designer recommend that you have to use this amount of steel or this quantity or this class of concrete, everything. Maybe for civil, for example, if you are trying to make a mixture, you will have to follow certain measurements. And so metrology is affecting the quality of life, and also it's a way, if we follow metrology keenly, it will help us preserve our environment. So every day, from what you shop in the supermarket or at the cereal store or in the market, you find that at some point you have to get a measurement, including the way you are looking neat in your dress. I'm sure a tailor had to measure you. I believe so. And that measurement, assuming the tailor used some funny, scale of measurement, I'm sure the day you go to pick your clothes, you will be having quarrels because you are like, we wrote down these measurements, and I'm sure I gave you the correct measurement. So, technology is helping us to measure today for a sustainable tomorrow, and also to make sure that we keep on improving our livelihood. And for us who are into the practice of metrology, for instance, now we are dealing with weighing equipment, whereby we are doing a lot of calibrations. We have what we call the standards or standard reference masses, whereby we liaise with the National Metrology Center, whereby, like in our country here, we have CAPES, where we take our standard reference equipment for calibration, and also we liaise with weights and measures. So in metrology, maybe to help you guys also understand that we have what you call legal metrology, we have field metrology, and we have scientific metrology. Legal metrology is when you are measuring anything that is going to have an impact in the trade. So legal metrology is there to enhance fair trade. Globally, we have an organization that we call OIML. What is the full meaning of OIML? I can see you in the document there.
International Organization for Legal Metrology.
Yes. OIML is a body that is putting together communities. When I talk of communities, it means it can be countries or any institutions. So OIML has put together communities which are interested in having standards for legal metrology. And there are different standards, and I was giving you illustrations, young men earlier on, that we have for non-automatic weighing instruments, which we call NAWI, non-automatic weighing instruments, which involve the indicators, the counting scales, the retail scales. For non-automatic weighing instruments, we have a standard we call R76. It's a standard that has given guidelines for those who are manufacturing those kind of scales. So if you read that standard manual, you will be able to see what is expected for a manufacturer or also for a trader. If you go to load cells, there is also a standard which is at 60 that gives guidance on how the manufacturing of these devices is supposed to be done. And when we go to things like the standard reference masses, we have a standard we call R111. That is a standard that gives a guide on how the manufacturers and the traders are supposed to produce and even handle these standards. And so, this community keep on improving on these exercises and practices according to the evolving trends. And it's important for each one of us to be aware so that when we are building the society, because I've said legal metrology helps in creating what? A fair trade. So that whatever instrument that you are using for trade is fair enough for the person or for the consumer and also to yourself. Remember, if you're selling a kilo at 500, for you as a trader, if you're giving more than a kilo, of course you're losing. But this consumer is gaining, but you are losing. And in an event that you are giving less than a kilo, you're also losing. Say losing. In either case, you're losing. If you give less than a kilo, you lose your customers. Whether you are selling or you buy, and what you're using is a kilo or you're weighing your goods, if you're not precise enough, you're losing. So for a trader who is weighing, whose instrument is not well calibrated, when they are weighing and instead maybe you are selling 1 kilo, if the scale is giving more than a kilo, you are losing money. You are losing value of your goods. If your scale is giving less than a kilo, you are going to lose your customers, because customers are going to shy away from your business. So having a standard instrument, and that's why we recommend that everybody must appreciate the exercise that we are contributing to the market by ensuring that our customers, or rather by ensuring that all the instruments that they are bought from us are accurate. So we need to observe standards, and we need to follow all the requirements. For example, according to the ISO 17025 standard, when we are doing testing of instruments, we follow certain procedures. Those procedures are to ensure that the instrument is accurate enough to enhance what? To enhance fair trade. Are we together? So we must understand that our exercise and our duty here, we are here to give our clients reliable weighing equipment. So on this day, as we celebrate World Metrology Day, what we are doing basically is to make sure that we are sensitizing ourselves and our consumers, the consumers of our products, to make sure that even if you have bought our equipment, you should always ensure that the equipment is frequently calibrated. Okay, according to legal requirements and legal metrology, we expect at least for each instrument to be verified or to be submitted for legal verification at least once per year. Sometimes the legal or statutory requirements might not be enough for every user. For example, if your scale is maybe weighing 100 tons of goods annually, and another guy has a scale which he only weighs like 5 tons of goods in a year, you find that the degree of use on 100 tons scale that's being subjected to measurement frequently, maybe in a day. I was talking to a client and they were telling me that in a day, each scale can handle about 5 tons. So you find that to such a consumer, he may require the scale to be checked or calibrated more often, so that the instrument can give reliable weights and accurate measurements. So when we tell you that at least the instrument needs to be calibrated or needs to be verified at least once a year, that's the minimum. But you as a trader or you as a user, for you to keep your processes, some of the scales are used in production lines or to measure ingredients. They used to measure ingredients which are used to maybe formulate certain end products. So If you are doing this and you go for long without calibrating your instrument, then you stand a high chance of having wrong formulas. And that's why we recommend that a scale must be subjected to calibration and checks as often as possible, depending on the user cases. Another very important thing to consider for the consumers is to make sure that when you're buying an instrument, be sure that you know the area of application. Because without knowing the area of application, you might end up buying a wrong instrument, because different instruments give different accuracy levels. So if you are using your equipment for a field which requires high precision measurement, then you need to get the correct instrument for your area of application. Most of the buyers, I've seen some cases whereby they are only inclining on price. So they ask, what is the cost of the equipment measuring up to this particular range? So what everyone needs to understand is that sometimes the accuracy of the instrument can help you save, or rather secure your profits, and that's what I normally keep on campaigning. When we talk of securing your profits, it's because if your instrument is accurate enough, you will always have a fair trade, and this will ensure that your profits are safe. But if your instrument is not accurate enough, what happens is that you will either be giving away goods that your customers are not paid for, or you are underweight. So we need everyone to understand that if you are if you are buying an instrument, be conscious of your industry. So if you are going to weigh, let's say, weight that is very minimal, maybe you are mixing ingredients, and maybe the ingredients are in grammage, you can't buy a retail scale, because a retail scale will compromise the accuracy. So we need to also advise our clients when they come to buy goods, so that they get the right scales for their applications. And also, when we look at also the performance of the scales and the longevity, the lifespan of the machines also is also very critical in terms of helping the owner of the business run a sustainable business. So you realize that somebody, for example, we had a client the other day who is doing fish. They're weighing fish, and the environment which they are using the scale is too wet. And they had bought a machine which was made from mild steel material and a plastic ABS indicator. And you find that by the time they brought the scale here, I hope all of you in the workshop, you saw literally how the scale was. Number one, the mild steel structure had already taken up some rust, and it could not give reliable readings, because when it starts rusting, it weakens up. So in that case, you find that the client was not well advised in the initial stage when they were buying the scale. And then you can see later on the client had to buy the correct instrument from us. So when you buy a wrong instrument, even if you are calibrating it frequently, it will still give you trouble, because it might not have the capability to do what? To execute the task accurately based on the environment it's subjected to. So it's important also to ensure that whenever we are selling our product, get to understand the environment the client is going to use this machine. And also clients need also to understand that different environment favor different equipment. For example, there are those scales which are being used in cold rooms, in maybe very wet environments, and they need to be constructed differently. So we have the IP ratings on also the equipments and devices, just to make sure that they deliver accurate results reliably and consistently and for a longer time. So today I would like us to think on this theme: measure today for sustainable tomorrow, in line with what we are doing. So how do we ensure that we bring sustainability in every client's business that we we are involved in. Being involved, I mean every client that comes to us, every machine we sell. How are we going to ensure that tomorrow this client will have a sustainable business? And all of us, we need to look at each client who comes to us as a partner, somebody that needs tomorrow to come and say thank you for the right advice, because whatever the machine they are buying is going to also affect the lives of other people, and it's going to have an impact in the entire ecosystem, because any wrong measurement affects the entire ecosystem. So it's good to make sure that whenever we are selling a machine, as we have been always doing, we ensure that we first calibrate the machine and take them through the thorough checks, so that tomorrow the client will be happy that they did not have any issues with their in their business. So the first time I asked here the metrologist, who is a metrologist, by the way? Let me again bring you back to that question. How many lifted their hands and said they are metrologists? Metrologists? Okay, so the question is, who is a metrologist? Who is willing to try answer? Let me see your hands.
Metrologist is somebody that practices metrology.
Okay, so help us define a metrologist without using the word metrology.
Okay.
You ensure the measurement of a measurement of something is accurate, reliable, and consistent.
Consistent. I want you to look at what you're doing and ask yourself, within the definitions that we are getting, are you in any way coming in within the metrology space? Because let's say a customer just works in our company and they say, I am running a serial shop. I need a scale for my serial shop. For example, when they just come in, I believe the first step that is needed is to advise them on which is the correct machine. One thing for me I've seen as a gap out here is that many people assume a scale is just a scale. And as we have had a discussion before, is without taking a good choice of a scale, you can have issues. So probably, let's assume a client is opening a butcher. Okay? For example, Kezia, can you tell us what factors or what should these clients know before they buy a scale?
The maximum capacity of what they want to wear, the environment they are using the scale.
What about legal compliance? In terms of legal metrology. Okay, anybody who understands what I'm saying in terms of legal compliance of the scale?
The scale must be approved and examinations.
Yeah, she's talking of something of approved.
It should be calibrated.
Okay, so that's a good point. Can you clap for her? She has just mentioned something that most of clients maybe are not aware, and they need to be in terms of equipment approval for trade use. One thing that we need to also keep on reminding our clients is that point, legal compliance. Not every weighing machine is approved for trade. If the client is going to use the machine in a trade environment, not every scale is approved for. We have instruments we call legal for trade and not legal for trade. When we talk of legal compliance of the instrument, here in Kenya we have Weights and Measures, which is an institute that has been established through the Act of Parliament. There is a cap for those of us who have been licensed, which Act of Parliament has been signed in for the Weights and Measures instruments for legal for trade. Is what should be Cap 500 and what? Cap 513. Now, as practitioners of the legal trade, listen, you need to understand that weights and measures exist through an act of parliament, and they have been given mandate through that act to ensure that there is fair trade. Okay? So, in that act, any instrument that is used for trade, there is the minimum compliance or the minimum expectation, and one of them is that this instrument must be approved as legal for trade. What is approval? Lawrence, you just took an equipment for approval, right? What steps does the instrument go to get approved?
So the instrument has to be tested, and then the testing results are compared with what the manufacturer has provided.
Is that all?
And that's not all.
Tell us more.
So the exercise begins from the manufacturer. The manufacturer has to provide documentation showing that.
Good. So let's start the process. You know, it's good for us to understand. Okay? So for you to approve an instrument as legal for trade, for example, we as a company who are selling instruments, and we are giving to our clients who are going to be involved in business for trade. So we have to adhere to this process. So the first step, Amesema, that the manufacturer must provide documentation, okay? And this documentation must give clearly the detail. For example, let's mention the type of documentation.
We have the OML
certification. So the manufacturer must demonstrate that they manufacture this instrument in line with the standard provided by the OIML, which we said OIML is the international body that regulates all equipment that are used for trade purpose. So the manufacturer must provide the documents showing that they manufacture this instrument adhering to the standard. And this document is issued by the OIML. So there is a certificate, and you need to know that each instrument that is legal for trade, once it has been tested in a laboratory that has been accredited by OIML. Listen to me. OIML is the body that sets the standard. OIML do not test the instruments. What they do, they set the standard, and then they accredit or they appoint laboratories that have the capacity to test the instrument according to the standard. And then the laboratories will issue a certificate. And that certificate is normally posted on the website of OML. So if anyone claims that their instrument has met the international standard, you need to find that certificate on the OML website. That certificate that manufacturer is normally given is not just issued without the test. So there must be test reports. So weights and measures will require you to provide the test reports which demonstrate that this instrument was tested. And they will also require the certificate. They will also require you to provide the technical manual of the instrument, showing all the diagrams, the pictorial representation of how the schematic diagrams for the mechanical parts and the electronic parts, how they work. They will also require to provide user documentation of how the scale is operated. In OML, there is also the expectations of how the instrument needs to be operated and function to meet the standard. And one of the things that OML requirements has is that the instrument must be sealed so that the metrological characteristics of the instruments cannot be compromised by other users. For example, when we sell our weighing machine, you see that when we take it to the weights and measures for verification, there is a seal they put. We have two different types of seals. There is the mechanical seal and then there is the electronic sealing. In our country, mostly we have been doing the mechanical sealing, where we include a lead pellet. Lead is the type of material that can be punched. So you see a lead pellet which is put on the scale. So that is a sealing to assure the user that this instrument, the instrument card has been verified. And also that seal is also ensures that the instrument is not tampered by unauthorized people. And then after providing the documents, now the weights and measures undertake a responsibility of doing what? Of testing the equipment and to check that all the technical parameters provided that have been given in the document align with what? With the instrument. So we have what we call a patent. You provide what we call a patent. So when you are approving the equipment for the first time, you provide what we call a patent. So we have what we call patent approval. And another thing you must understand that whatever that is submitted for approval, that's what is supposed to be sold. And that's what is supposed to be sealed every time. Or rather, when you provide a patent, means that any other equipment that you're going to sell is going to look like that in terms of its characteristics, both electronically, physically, and in all aspects. So when we talk of legal, when we talk of approval is a process. So even users, the buyers of weighing machines, they need always to check from the sources. For example, when you're buying a machine, people just go to buy a weighing machine because it's a weighing machine. But we are trying to educate or sensitize people to ensure that they buy the right equipment or the right machine for their applications, and also make sure that the equipment is reliable in terms of accuracy and in terms of the legal compliance. So that is why everyone needs to understand that we have a body in our country called Weights and Measures that also makes sure that all the instruments meet the legal compliance. Thank you, Lord. We need to continuously help our clients because we are also registered and approved by weights and measures to do what? To repair, overhaul, and calibrate weighing equipment. And also we have a laboratory that is adhering to ISO 17025 standard, which we have submitted our standard masses to CAPES, which is our national metrology center, for reference. So when we calibrate our instruments and we issue our certificate, is to demonstrate traceability. Traceability is to show that the weights or the equipment we are using to do the calibration, the results can be traceable and can be dependable. So that is very fundamental in this industry, and I think for today it's very important for each one of us to understand that we are in a very critical industry where we are contributing to the entire ecosystem, and we have to measure today precisely and accurately for us to have a sustainable tomorrow. At this moment, I will take any contributions, any questions, any observations before we summarize. How is metrology helping us preserve environment? Okay, tell us.
Okay. Metrology provides accurate and reliable measurements. So whenever we have accurate and reliable measurements, which we get from metrology, or which metrology enables us to get, they give us a clear roadmap and mitigation measures to take whenever there's anything that is unexpected. For example, in speed. If we have correct measurement to measure the speed, so we can, for example, check the speed of wind, and it will give us maybe a warning, or it will give us a guidance of what may be coming ahead, so that when it is construction or maybe collecting, we don't know what to do.
Okay. Anybody else?
Meteorologists to come and say that in this area or in this side, the arc of the ocean, the tides are rising, they need to have measurements.
They use some instruments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that part is where the metrology comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as they measure the weather. They come and
Weather forecasting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. But we need to understand that there's difference between metrology and meteorology. You know, so don't. But he has come on clearly because he has said that the meteorologists use the science of measurement, which is metrology, to determine, and also the equipment actually are normally calibrated. Okay, so like if they are measuring wind or temperatures or they are forecasting, they need to have instruments that are reliable. Okay, and also we have now, in the current climatical changes, there's a lot of the worlds are making efforts towards ensuring that there is low emission of carbon. I'm sure you are aware of that. Anyone who has been keen on in the energy sector, there's a lot of campaign to make sure that we minimize the carbon emissions, and all this process cannot be achieved without the correct measurement instruments. There's so much that is done in laboratories when formulating or when preparing different equipments, or rather when coming up with mixtures of different fuels that are gonna be used in the different industries. So the amount of carbon that is being emitted can also be controlled by doing proper analysis. And maybe a last question that I'll pose to, based on what we've discussed, maybe Wendy, give it to Wendy. How is metrology helping us improve the quality of life?
Okay, initially you said that metrology assists us in improving the way of life in terms of
the quality of life.
The quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Sorry?
In terms of monitoring the child growth by measuring the weight and the height of a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was just one example. Now, I want you to think beyond just monitoring the child's growth.
I can shift it to an adult life in terms of the BMI of a person. There's this scale that one uses to measure the height, the weight, and the BMI. So that's a way of improving it.